In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the Greek-English New Testament from Crossway. This symbol is for the ESV, and this other one, the staurogram that you see on the left, is symbolic of the Tyndale House Greek New Testament. So this includes the Greek text of Tyndale House and the English text of the ESV. I will show you the back of the box, so you could pause the video and read that if you like. And on the base of the box, there is the ISBN. This is a hardback. It is 8 5/8 inches tall, 5 3/4 inches wide, and it's 1.5 inches at the spine. So that's 1.5 inches thick. To give you a sense for proportions, this is the original Tyndale House Greek New Testament, which is shorter and thinner, about the same width. This is the Tyndale House Greek New Testament Reader's Edition, a taller book, around the same thickness but wider. Here's an older Greek English New Testament. This one's from Deutsche Bibelgesellschaft, Revised Standard Version, with the Nestle Aland 27th edition. So it's shorter and around the same width and thickness. And finally, this is another Crossway Greek English New Testament with the ESV, only this one includes the Nestle Aland 28th edition for the Greek rather than the Tyndale House Greek New Testament. It's a much taller book, wider book, has a considerably larger font in this one. I believe this was the first video that I posted on this Bible review channel. So we will open it up as we always do and take a look at the interior first. You see the English text from the ESV on the right, the Greek text from Tyndale House on the left. It presents the text in one column on each side. The column is 98 millimeters wide, 98 on each side, but the thesis lines, the first lines of the paragraphs in the Tyndale House Greek New Testament, are about 101 millimeters wide versus 98. In the English, I count about 74 characters per line. In the Greek, about 64. You can find as many as 36 lines of text on a page. Those usually occur on the left-hand side, because those aren't broken up with paragraph breaks as the English is on the right. Page dimensions are 213 millimeters tall, 135 millimeters wide, that's 8.4 inches tall, 5.3 inches wide. The margins at the top, from the top of the top line of text on either side to the edge of the page, it's about 15 millimeters. The inner margin can be as much as 18 millimeters. The outer margin varies between 17 and 18. And at the bottom, below a descender on the notes, is around 14 millimeters. The print strikes me as generally sharp and dark, especially in the English. The Greek text looks a little lighter to my eyes. There is some non-uniformity. It's fairly common. I would also characterize it as mild. We'll turn here to look at pages 527 and 529 simultaneously. And you'll see that 527 on the left is a little bit lighter than 529 on the right. That's about the range of the variation there. As I said, it's fairly common. In terms of font size, I compare the English to Times New Roman and the Greek to the symbol font. The English font size, capitals, are around the same size as a Times New Roman 8.5 point. The lowercase are almost as large as a 10-point Times New Roman lowercase letter. Line height here is 3.9 millimeters. That equates to 10.9 points. In the Greek, The capitals and the lowercase all compare to about a 9.5 point symbol font, and the line height here is 13 points. So it's quite a lot wider. The text is not line matched, and of course it can't be, since you have the Greek on the opposite side as the English, and they have different line heights. The ESV does not use italic font for words that the translators supply for smoothing, nor does it use capital letters for deity. And in this edition, you will not find the words of Christ in red ink. It's in black ink, as I prefer it. There are page bottom notes. The notes in the Greek are in about a 7.5 point font, and those in English are about a 6.5 point sans serif font. One of the interesting things you'll notice is that the order of the books follows their order in the Tyndale House Greek New Testament. So after the Gospels, we're in John now, and Acts, rather than go to Romans, as you do typically in a modern Greek New Testament, you come to James. So right after Acts is James, and 1 Peter and 2 Peter, and the 3 epistles of John, I believe, come after that, yes. And then you get to the Pauline epistles afterwards. There are no book introductions, so here we are at Romans, no introduction to Romans. The books do begin on a fresh page, and I think you noticed that as we flipped rapidly through the epistles of John. Book titles occur at the center top of the page on either side. So you have to the Romans in Greek on the left and Romans on the right. The page contents are on the outside top. So we're here at Romans 2:4 to 2:23, and that's what appears here on the left as well, up here. The page numbers are inside top. So the English and Greek are numbered consecutively. They're not numbered separately. There are headings, but only within the English text. And this heading looks like it's about an 8.5 point semi-bold italic font. New chapter numbers are large and relatively bold. They're larger in the English than they are in the Greek, but they span roughly 2 lines in either case. In the English text, quotations from the Old Testament are in quotation marks, and they're often offset this way. In the Greek text, you find no indications for the quotations. The paper is good. I measure the sheet thickness at 60.2 micrometers, compared that to the papers in the original Tyndale House Greek New Testament, which is about 89 micrometers per sheet. I estimate the paper weight at 55 GSM. There's a very light sheen on the surface, and I don't know if you've been picking up some of that as I've been moving the book around, but it certainly is not distracting. It's fairly matte. Paper is also nearly white. It's very light cream in color. And there is show-through. I do not find it distracting, but it is possible on pages where there is no text on the opposite side of the page to read through to the following page. So here I'm reading 5 words with my mind in order. Let's see if that's right. Yeah, speak 5 words with my mind in order to instruct others. So you can see it, but it's very subdued, and again, I don't find it distracting at all. After the New Testament, so we'll go to the end of the book of Revelation. One comes to a table of weights and measures. This is only 1 page long. The font size here is about 7.5 points in size. You then have 5 blank sheets of normal paper where you could write notes, and then 4 sheets of cardstock before you come to this last piece of heavy paper that's coated that forms the liner. There are no maps, no concordance, no dictionary. It's a paste-off construction, normal type hardback construction with black and yellow head and tail bands with a single ribbon marker. It's black. It's about 6 millimeters wide. That's around 1/4 of an inch, 29.5 centimeters long. So it's long enough to come out at the corner of the book and be useful that way. Black hardback, as we mentioned, it is a sewn binding. It lies open in Matthew. In fact, it lies open before you get to Matthew. So that's not an issue. And in the center of the book, although the text does gently drop off into the gutter, the inner margin is quite wide. So I don't find that degree of fall off to be particularly troubling. You can see that the binding is sewn in a number of places. If you go into the introduction in pages 16 to 17, I'll go there and I'll show you that. If you look right down in there, you should be able to see the stitching in this gutter. It's also visible in the back of the book between pages 914 and 915. Let's look at the front. We've shown you the front of the volume before, and of course here's the spine. The back has nothing written on it. Front is similar to the back in that you start with 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of heavy paper. Then you have the half leaf and the full title page. Tyndale House, Greek Cambridge Edition, English Standard Version from Crossway in Wheaton, Illinois. The copyright page shows you that this is the 2016 ESV text. It is printed in the People's Republic of China. This looks like the first printing. And one then goes to the table of contents, and we have a preface, an introduction, and another preface, followed by the books of the Bible, both in capital Greek letters and in English. And you see the order of the books here. Acts, James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 3 books of John, Jude. And then we come to the Pauline epistles, followed by Hebrews and the Apocalypse in that order. Then the weights and measures at the end we've already seen. The preface to the Tyndale House Greek New Testament, which I definitely recommend reading, along with the introduction. The introduction tells you that it's a revision of the New Testament text of Samuel P. Tregelles, who died in 1875. It's based largely on older manuscripts. The apparatus is not as full as you'll find in Nestle Aland editions. There's information here on spelling, on paragraph formats. Paragraphs are marked by ecthesis according to the ancient custom. We saw ecthesis when I was showing you the column width earlier, and a bit on the apparatus. Then a very useful table here at the end of the introduction that shows you the witnesses, the manuscripts that they've relied upon. It gives you the time frame in which they're believed to have been written, what contents are still extant, and the location where the manuscript can be found. It goes on for several pages. Preface to the ESV. This is an essentially literal translation. As it says at the bottom of the page, it's a revision of the Revised Standard Version. I know people have told me, no, it's a revision of the New Revised Standard Version. Well, that's not what the translators say. The translators say it's a revision of the Revised Standard Version, and it certainly looks that way. And after that, we are in the New Testament itself. And we come to Matthew. Oh, you might wonder whether this is a good match between the English of the ESV and the Greek of the Tyndale house. How well do they agree? Let me show you my scatter plot for Tyndale house on the x-axis and Nestle-Aland on the y-axis. And there in the red box is where the ESV rests. So in the 153 verses I looked at, the 2016 ESV agrees with Nestle-Aland more than it does with Tyndale house, 73.2% versus 51%. However, although the Tyndale house apparatus is limited, it does show you significant variations. So you might look at this as just a bit more challenging to you in terms of your ability to read the Greek and locate differences and discrepancies between that and the English than you would find if you were using the ESV Nestle-Aland 28th edition combination. One thing this does point out, to my mind at least, is that each of these translations actually represents a unique Greek New Testament. That is, the translators have chosen amongst the variant readings a unique set. They essentially have created a distinct critical edition of the Greek New Testament. And if you think about that, then you realize that there's no reason that you couldn't plot the Tyndale house Greek New Testament on these scatter plots. So here's one with Tyndale house Greek New Testament in the red box, showing the extent to which it agrees with the Nestle-Aland 28th edition and with the Robinson-Pierpont Greek New Testament. And you see there it agrees with Robinson-Pierpont almost 60% of the time. But with Nestle-Aland 28th edition, only 49% of the time. And so finally, this chart shows Westcott and Hort on the x-axis and Nestle-Aland 28th edition on the y. You see that Tyndale house actually is somewhere in that intermediate regime with the EHV and the Douay-Rheims Bible, not strongly anti-Westcott and Hort like the King James, the English majority text translation, the MEV, and not strongly pro-Nestle-Aland like the New American Bible or the Christian Standard Bible, nor strongly Westcott and Hort like the New American Standard family. Here's a close-up look at the Greek font. I find it attractive. It's a handsome font, and it's printed sharply enough that you can see all of the marks that hover above the letters very well to be able to distinguish them. The ones that curl, for instance, towards the left versus the ones that curl towards the right. Now, I brought in over the top the Greek text from the Crossway ESV NA 28 edition, the big blue hardback I showed you earlier. It's a much larger font, but this is thinner paper as well, so there's considerably more show-through on the right than on the left. Paper is also floppier, and I find it harder to manage. It's more difficult to turn from page to page. In this shot, you're seeing on the left the Greek text from the Greek English New Testament that has the Revised Standard Version English and the Nestle-Aland 27th edition. So that's this font here. And the paper here, of course, is much creamier colored. The fonts are both printed well, nicely, sharply. I believe this is a little easier to read. It's a little bit more bold than that. And finally, here on the left, I have the original Tyndale house Greek New Testament. I think the font's the same. The paper on the left is a little less white, and the print looks a little bit darker on the right than on the left. And this is a close-up look at the English font in the ESV. It's a decent-sized font. You might wish for one larger if you have older eyes, but it's printed sharply and boldly. I find it relatively easy to read. And to give you a font to compare it with, this is the font that's in the ESV Creeds and Confessions Bible on the right. much larger font in this full edition, but both perfectly readable, I believe. And now on the right, you're seeing the font in the original ESV Classic Reference Edition. This particular copy I purchased in around 2002, and I think the font there is has a bit better line spacing, but it's thinner, not quite as bold. Similar. So with that, I'd like to wrap up this brief video review of the Greek-English New Testament with the Tyndale House Cambridge Edition Greek New Testament and the English Standard Version English text. I think it's a very useful resource. It fits in well between the intermediate and the more expert level of Greek reading. That is, someone who has more confidence in his ability to read Greek than, say, a beginner who needs an interlinear, or someone who's fairly advanced who can get by with a reader's edition. With this, you can attempt to read the Greek, keeping the right-hand page covered, but glancing to the right now and then when you need help, say, with vocabulary or understanding the tense or number of a verb or participle that you see in the Greek text that's throwing you for a loop that you're not familiar with. It's well made, the paper is good, print quality is good, the translation is very good translation, and I like the character of the Greek text in Tyndale House. There are certain features to it that I find attractive. I find this book order to be attractive. I find the paragraph formatting, the fact that they use an ancient form of indicating a paragraph, that is attractive to me as well. The spelling choices are a little bit unnerving, at least from time to time. They make words more difficult to recognize, but that's certainly not a major issue. Sometimes people complain about the extent of the apparatus in Tyndale House, but if you need a more extensive apparatus, there are other Greek New Testaments that you can use. So I hope you found this video review to be helpful, brief as it has been, and I want to thank you for watching. Remember to like the video if you do like it, and to subscribe to the channel if this is the kind of content that you like seeing. Thanks very much for watching.